Okay, on the right, we actually have information from Nokushita, tomorrow's press release on the X-T4, and everybody's missing it. I've looked at all the comments and all the photography boards. The two important points, and this is only part of the information in text on the right, but they're the two most important things that everybody's missing. Let's actually address point number one first, that the stills and videos, you'll notice here of the image, the subdial. Real estate on the top of any camera is incredibly important. It's actually the most important real estate in any camera. You'll notice that the photometry has been removed. In other words, a matrix, center weight, spot, or average. Most people, including myself, have actually relegated photometry to a menu button on various other different Fujifilm cameras. Fujifilm did an important thing here. As you'll read in black, the stills and video modes now have separate menus, and the video only quick menu has been enhanced to the camera's simplicity when recording a video. The important point being is on other Fujifilm cameras where you have a completely different menu for playback, playback options, and image conversion from RAW and whatnot. Now we actually have three completely separate menus. Just by flipping the switch from stills to movie, you will have a completely different menu for movie functionality. On the X-T3 and all current Fujifilm cameras, the movie function in the menus button, of course, is several tabs down and then you go over, but simply by flipping over, this will make things a lot simpler. In other words, by flipping the switch from stills to movie, you'll have instantly, by flipping that switch, a completely different set of menus for adjustment of all the little nuances of video recording. That's going to be a huge welcome by basically everybody. So now on the X-T4 we'll actually have three separate menus. Obviously the same playback menu option that every other Fujifilm camera enjoys. The stills menu that, of course, was basically 80% of every current Fujifilm camera's menu system. But by flipping that switch, we'll have a completely different movie menu. Now, the information over here in blue strikes the point home, exactly what I've been saying now for quite some time on the X-T4. It's talking about the IBIS having, with 18 out of the 29 X-mount lenses, 6.5 stops of image stabilization, and they go on and they of course talk about the IBIS mech working off of magnetic movement, and it's 30% smaller and 20% lighter. Also, too, they're talking about the shutter release having just 0.035 lag, and they've doubled the shutter mechanism's life expectancy to 300,000 plus. All of these things in these two blue paragraphs on the press release on the X-T4 only mean one thing. These are only the characteristics that are bragged about by ultra-hardcore sports action wildlife photojournalistic cameras where someone is literally burying the buffer. They're ripping the camera off like a machine gun over and over and over and over. This is the reason why Canon and Nikon for, countless years now have been boasting about their pro cameras, shutter mechanisms lasting a lot longer. What Fujifilm's going to do, since we now know that the X-T4, and this is huge, on top of all the specifications of the X-T4, this is why this is so huge. Canon has their new flagship camera, whatever you think about it. Nikon has their new flagship camera, which everybody's basically, driven into the dirt, whatever you think about it. But here comes along Fuji. Canon and Nikon are sitting at the $6,000 plus mark, or $6,500 or higher. But for $1,700, which by my math is, that's like $5,000 cheaper than the alternatives. And yes, of course, Fujifilm does not have the ultra-hardcore lenses other than the 200mm f2. However, they're going to tomorrow announce 3 new lenses, and one of those, at least one, has to be a super hardcore prime. It could even be a zoom on the second lens, but at least one. I don't know if that's a 300mm 5.6 or, a 500mm 5.6. It could be something, but it has to be one of those. For $5,000 less, at 15 frames per second, with all these features, double the shutter mech life, and Fujifilm, and the press release already leaked, is that it has double the autofocus tracking performance of the X-T3. Double. But everything here in blue means that Fujifilm is touting this camera for what exactly I said it's going to be. They're going to obviously showcase it at the Olympics with the huge new whatever millimeter prime it is that they're going to announce to everybody available later this year or next year. And that's huge. I mean, the specifications are already quite incredible. So, but that's interesting. Everybody, including myself, was wondering on the stills slash movie dial switch, but that is exactly what that's for, as it states here in the press release. People aren't getting it, and that was, I'm not a video guy, but I could see any video person wanting that, and it would be a huge welcome addition to the camera. You simply flip the switch between stills and movie, and that will give you a completely different menu system instead of as it is currently on the X-T3 and every other Fujifilm camera, where you hit the menu button and you have to go over and then go down to movie settings in the menu and change things over. So that's smart. And the photometry does not need a dedicated dial. You could assign that to the either the Q button, or you could assign it to a button functionality, but it does not have to be on this really, really important piece of real estate here on the camera, which is the sub dial underneath the primary dial on the right hand side. Anyway, thanks so much for watching.